Travellers are facing increased risk of financial loss as AI exploits holiday photos for scams. What steps can you take to safeguard your personal information? For more, we're joined by Dr. Karen Sutherland from the University of the Sunshine Coast. Of course, good to see you. Talk to us about what scammers are actually doing with AI and our holiday photos.
McAfee actually did a little experiment where they scanned, it was 21,000 travel images across two models just to see if they could pick up the location of where these photos were taken. So not obvious things like in front of the Eiffel Tower, but just on a beach somewhere sort of shots. And
Yeah.
they found that AI could identify the actual location in 91% of the time using one model, and it was 87% of the time in the other. So what scammers are doing is they're clearly doing this to find out where people are, and then they're contacting them either by phone or text and just saying, we're from the bank, we have identified suspicious activity on your accounts, and then badger them into giving up their details and things like that. So, yeah, so it's these sort of what seem to be innocent holiday snaps are actually making it much easier for scammers to come up with really customised and personalised scams to get you to hand over your money.
And why are travellers particularly vulnerable? Is it because it then is more believable while you're away, and the thing we fear the most is being in financial difficulty or strain when we're overseas?
I think so, yes. And I don't know about you, but do you always tell your bank when you are away somewhere? So
Generally, I do. One bank needs it, the other bank doesn't, but I generally just like to get it. I've been caught before. It happened terribly in New York once. I'm there, I go to tap my card, works once, tap it the second time, it doesn't work. The bank then doesn't want to know about it. This was years ago before eSIMs, and it was cheap. Cost me a fortune to use the hotel phone to call the Australian bank on hold and then get it sorted out. It was a ridiculous situation. So now I very much make sure that I'm prepared.
Yes, particularly if people haven't done that and they haven't told their bank, it would seem quite legitimate then for the bank to say, hey, we think something's going on with your card. And the thing is too,
I think you'd even do that. You'd even do that if you had told them. You would expect that the system hadn't spoken to the person and that's why they were calling. And it would probably even make more sense in that regard. It's really like magic tricks, isn't it? It's the idea of gaining your belief that everything is as normal and then you give away information.
Oh, absolutely. And we've said this before, how scammers are using AI just to get that information, that personal information about you, to make their approaches and their attempts on you to look much more legitimate than what they are. They're using AI agents to just gather and collect data, and now they're using AI to detect where you are from your holiday images and things, just to make it sound like they actually know where you are, they know about you, they are coming from a legitimate source.
Yes, so it's interesting when you say that about it's not the Eiffel Tower because everyone knows you're in Paris, it's about some of those other locations. So are they using their metadata from your photos, or are they going through Instagram, for example, and recognise it because you're saying where you are in your actual post text, or is it the metadata of your photo?
They're saying in this study that McAfee did, then it's not even using the metadata. And even when you take the location tags off, the AI can still detect through the image where you are in most cases. So it could just look like just a random, you could just be on a beach somewhere or standing in front of a random building, but it will be able to find where you are.
It's what's so fascinating about these scammers. We hear from Apple and all of these device manufacturers about privacy settings and about how they're doing so much to protect users, yet where there's a will, there's a way, right? I remember having a lock put on a door and the guy doing it said, look, if someone really wanted to get in, this ain't going to stop them. Is that the case here, that no matter what government does, there'll always be a way to get around it, or we as consumers will want to share with our friends where we might be travelling, and that way it could be used against us if someone really wants to do so?
I think so. The scammers seem to be one step ahead because, yes, the technology is evolving to try and stop them, but they're also using it to outrun that too. So, yeah, so I think it's always going to be a case of just being really vigilant. So the advice that was given is to maybe just share things like that with your friends and not have it public. And that could really help. And to just watch out for, particularly on a phone call, where there's this sort of panic and they're pushing you to make a decision really quickly. And that is a huge giveaway that they are scammers.
Yes, I've been copying it recently, and when you say things like, oh no, that's all sorted. I had one lady get really angry and then quickly hung up, and that's how I worked out it was a scam. All right, let's move on. Because France's top court has blocked social media ban for this under 15s impacting children's online safety. So talk to us about what the government will propose next for online safety here as well, because it's quite interesting that the top court has blocked this social media ban.
Yeah, and it's done it for a few reasons. So first, it actually a suppression of limiting freedom of speech for younger people, which is quite interesting, which is not something that our government considered. And then the other thing was that it's not clear on how they're going to actually verify age properly. And this is the issue that's here in Australia with our ban. So, yeah, until that can actually be unequivocally stated about how they will be able to accurately verify age, just to prevent younger people being on social media platforms, then they're not going to put it through. So they haven't said no, but they've just said, please come back with more information.
Fascinating to see this playing out in France, a country which generally leads the world on social issues, and Australia has clamped down even harder than France. It says so much about where we are as a nation at the moment. Talk to us about the implications, though, for children's safety online, because the reason to want to try and prevent children from going online, we've been reporting for a long time about older people who are using Snapchat and social media to groom young people, and that's what this was about. It was as if the authorities couldn't stamp it out, so they decided to ban it in the belief that it would help to keep children safe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But we still don't know how successful it's been here, and there are lots of reports that younger people are still on the platform. So it needs to be more than that. And what I like in France, they're calling it more of or in Europe, a social media delay rather than a ban, which is a bit of a softer way to approach it.
For children being able to get onto social media, is that the idea?
Yes, a delay rather than being banned outright, which I think is a nice way to put it. But I still think there's so much education needed, and there's also parents need to supervise what their kids are doing, which I know can be very challenging. So, yeah, it needs to be more than that, and providing younger people with other ways to connect in person and using maybe other technologies too.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know about your friendship group, the ones that have kids, and you ask them about this ban, and some will say, I'm all for it, I don't want my children using this, but then the same kids are on Roblox and they're chatting to each other online and shouting at each other about you did this, you did that. But still, kids will find a way to communicate with each other. And then you have the other parents who say, oh yeah, my kids are using it. I just would rather them keep themselves entertained with an iPad and whatever it takes. I don't even think that the ban would work, is what they're saying. Seems to be a lot of division about the whole concept of the ban, let alone whether or not it works.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yes. And we just don't know. Some kids were like shut out completely, but many are still on there, or many of them have created new accounts and pretended to be adults to be able to actually use the platforms.
I've read that it's at least a third of children under the age of 16 are still on these social media platforms. They're still managing to find ways around it. Again, that kind of thing we were saying before, where there's a will, there's a way. What happens to government credibility on an issue like this, where they try and clamp down, tell the social media companies do it or else, and then it doesn't fix things?
I think it's just going to really, how they try and navigate that is going to be really interesting. And also the language and how they explain why they can't do it is also going to be very interesting. I think putting the onus back on the platforms to verify age, it's too tricky because every platform is different and the measures are different. So, yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out.
All right, Dr. Karen Sutherland, always appreciate your time.